Hi, welcome to Community Spotlight, and we're doing a special show today called Having a Book Club. And this is sort of an experiment in terror, maybe, at least for our guests. But we may continue this as a regular show, something like book club, book review, or something like that. Let me know what you think as far as the name is concerned. But meanwhile, today, I have with me my good friends, Gail Weissman, Allison Lewis, and our special guest, author, mystery writer, Amy Patricia Mead.
Hello.
Okay. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You can talk.
It's great. It's
okay. Like I said, this is a little bit of an experiment.
It's great.
But Gail has been part of many book clubs, and it's all the rage now anyway, so it's kind of cool.
Actually, I was thinking about it since you called me, and I think what is very interesting about the book clubs is it can be many topics. Some are fiction, some are history, some are nonfiction, some are only mysteries. We know that they're very popular. Right now we have a movie, the Jane Austen Book Club.
Cool.
And they took only Jane Austen books. So it can be built around many topics. Wow. The other thing is usually a group of friends or acquaintances that have like reading habits or wish to read like books or wish to be exposed to new reading. And as Amy does mysteries, there are book clubs that only read mystery writers. And I think that's really special too.
I love mysteries.
Yes, I do
I really
too.
do.
I do too.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting, Amy, because Gail and I are pretty much in the same generation.
Right.
But Allison is a much younger generation. And your books, give us a little thumbnail sketch about an overview of your books and what it covered.
I like to call them screwball mysteries.
That's a great description.
They're throwbacks to the old screwball comedies of the 1930s, like The Thin Man.
Oh, I love those.
Yes, the Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn, the quick banter back and forth, but there's also a mystery involved too.
Yeah.
With some really great characters and humor and romance and everything in all. A neat little package.
Well, it was kind of fun because I talked to Allison a little bit about the first book, $1 Million Baby, which is the first of 3 so far.
Yes.
And she found it really interesting. Tell me what your take was on that genre, that decade of writing, that style.
I don't know. I mean, I just found it just, funny and cute, and I'm sure I had some metaphor that I compared it to at the time, but I can't really remember what I said at the moment. But no, I really enjoyed it, and
thank you.
Just that it seems, I don't know if fashionable almost comes to mind because of you imagine the way they're dressed and you imagine what they're drinking and sort of the design of the little town and the cars, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's neat.
I try to write them so that they're a bit more cinematic, so that you can envision it in your mind, the characters, the fashion of the day, because it's the 1930s.
Well, and the main person in it, Margie McClellan.
Yes.
She's very fashion conscious.
Yeah.
And she's a writer.
And she's a writer.
Yes, and blonde.
Oh, son of a gun.
For sure.
I haven't found the Millionaire.
I was interested in why you picked this particular post sort of the Depression era and how you picked this particular time. Were you enthralled with the
especially to be a
actors?
young person
being
yourself.
Being a young person yourself.
That's mostly the influence of my grandfather. He grew up during the Great Depression, and he loved movies. He wanted to be an actor, and unfortunately got drafted into World War II, so that didn't happen. But I spent a weekend evening watching old movies with him, and much to my mother's consternation, it was usually the Late Show.
So she had trouble getting you out of
me
bed
up
in the morning.
Yes. So that era just really resonated with me. The glamour, the fact that I think the appeal is universal. Everyone has something they can relate to, the glamour or the innocence of the age.
Well, you captured it all because you have
did.
Marjorie, who's very stylish. Obviously, she's young, she's gorgeous, and she sort of is aware of her beauty, but sort of not.
Right.
And then you have Creighton Ashcroft.
Yes.
Is he the third? I can't remember.
The third.
Yes. And he comes pulling up. And what was the car he was driving?
A Rolls-Royce Phantom.
My kind of guy.
Yes.
But you can just picture that, you know? He ends up in a small town.
Yes.
And he buys this big mansion or estate,
Yes.
doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it just starts to show how he starts to fit, especially since he's sort of like a round peg trying to be fit into a square hole
Right.
as far as that town is concerned.
Right.
I'd like to know a little bit about how you come up with the mystery in your head. Is it something you write out?
That's a good question.
I definitely have to make notes.
Yeah.
And you definitely have to know where you end up, because otherwise
So you start there
could-
first and then back your way out?
Yes. You come up with a concept and you try to arrange your characters. You have to know who did it at the end. Otherwise, you're writing and you'll write yourself into a corner. You might end up killing off the character who should have done it,
Oops.
and then at the end, oops, yes. So you definitely have to know where you're heading. And then the smaller details, a lot of times, just seem to fill themselves in as you're writing. Like, wouldn't this be a great little red herring to throw here, or a little twist to
Well, you
throw
did
there?
that very
I
well,
tried.
I have to say. Well, for instance, this first one, do you remember, well, you came up with the ending, but I
Yes.
don't, like with Allison, I don't know how you actually figure out an ending. What would it be like,
It's-
oh, okay, I'm going to write a book that the butler did it?
Not really. A lot of times it's strange. I'm sure I scare my husband several times because we'll be driving around or I'll see something or hear a story and say, wouldn't that be a really neat...
Good plot.
Exactly. Just even a small little detail.
And then it just starts
And it
to,
just starts to take shape.
I think it's a gifting. It must be.
I
It's gotta be a
suppose.
gift
I suppose.
to be able to do that.
It might be
yeah.
the Irish storytelling. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah,
touch
he
of Blarney.
definitely got that. So what was some things you
When
took
did you
away?
decide to be a writer? Have you always written
I've always written.
told stories? Be a
Yes,
storyteller.
always. My
Uh-huh.
grandpa, again, was
Yeah.
a great storyteller. You never knew when he was telling a story if he was telling...
Fiction or
Yes, exactly. So
historic fiction.
that I always did, but professionally, I actually went to school for business and English because I wanted to hedge my bets and make sure I was
Yeah.
employed in high school.
Good idea.
And when I left my first job as an operations manager, I decided, well, I'm on unemployment, I have severance pay, I'm taken care of for a little while, and just started diving in. Yes.
Great.
Figured I had nothing to lose.
Okay, let's talk about this first book. All right, so all three of us have read this book, and obviously you read it because you wrote it.
Yes.
How would we attack this first book at a book club meeting? This is $1 Million Baby.
Well, we would talk about the period, why it was a period piece. Did it capture all of the elements of the 1930s, more or less, or late 20s? And the characters. I know that you said it. The old movie. Did you actually? You would start saying, building those characters. Did they achieve what she wanted? And I was wondering if you built them around those particular actors. A lot of people have said Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn,
Right.
James Stewart. And without my seeing that, when I read it, Cary Grant came to mind.
Right.
But Katharine Hepburn wasn't a blonde in my mind.
No.
She was
Redhead,
a feisty
fiery redhead, yeah.
So I went with that, but the character did. And then I still not sure about James Stewart. But how did you formulate them in your mind?
I actually had no image of those actors in my mind.
Right.
I just knew the formula always seemed to involve a wealthy, somewhat screwball type. Usually it was the female, but I decided to turn it around and make it the male in this case, Creighton. And then I wanted there to be a little bit of a love triangle, so...
You definitely did that with the inspector.
Right,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
detective.
Detective, yeah.
James.
But I
Jameson.
didn't want it to be a clear-cut triangle where you root for Creighton, but you like Jameson. He's certainly
up until the second book.
Up until the second book.
Yeah, then I'm not so
then
much.
You're not too.
No, you're really way on Creighton's side.